All right, folks, the day is the day that we're going to take the Chief to the shop. Let me show you what we got. All right, so I put the bike on the trailer last night and got it strapped down. We got one strap around the frame on the right side, and I put this cloth here because it was rubbing on the head. And on the other side, you can see right there, this is the exact same thing on the opposite side. I had one on the rear, and then basically the ratchet mechanism, the ratchet, it broke on the rear. So rather than try to go to the store and get another one, I don't have much time. I'm just gonna run it as it is. I'm getting this done right after I get off of work, and honestly, I'm not going that far to get this bike to the shop. So like maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes drive. So I don't expect it to just bounce off of it, but it would be better to have that rear tire secured. But either way, we're gonna rock with it because I know there are a lot of experts out there on how to strap stuff down. It'll be all right, and we'll just do it better next time. So either way, we're getting this done. The worst part of it right here. Oh my God. Dropping it off at the shop. All right, folks, we're dropping the bike off here at the body shop. It's in their hands. We're gonna get that subframe fixed and that fender. We're gonna get this tank situated, and then we're gonna get it done. So here we go. The bike is now at the shop, and I can say that this is the first time since we started this entire Indian Chief project that the bike isn't in the garage, but it is now in the hands of professionals, and I'm trusting them. They'll fix it. They'll fix it. I have confidence that they're gonna fix the subframe. They're gonna get the fender shape to the subframe correctly, and also they're gonna fix the tank. And I know some of you are gonna say, well, Brandon, you should totally just buy a new tank. Well, you know what? I'm gonna put it up to them to fix it. I trust that they're gonna fix it, and they're gonna fix it. And this leads me now to some very important topics that I've wanted to cover for a long time. So let's get into that. So the bike has been at the shop for about a little over a week and a half, and with the bike being there and me not having to work on it right now, it's giving me a chance to kind of reflect on what we've done so far and to think about things that I could have done better. And since I started this, I've gotten quite a bit of criticism, both good and bad, and naturally that's gonna happen when you're doing something new and exciting and something that nobody else has done. In this case, rebuilding a wrecked Indian Chief, a 2022 Indian motorcycle, and showing it in a very detailed process. And obviously the odds weren't in my favor for a lot of people, and I didn't take that as a means of stopping me from doing this. And so far it's been pretty good. I wouldn't be fully truthful with you if I didn't say that this project or this bike has, and this series has, I guess, stressed me out from working on the bike, filming everything, editing, and figuring out logistical stuff, and also planning a giveaway, because I do plan on giving the bike away when the series is done. And since then, I've been trying to come up with a blueprint where, you know, the next one will be a lot easier, the next motorcycle that I do this to, because I originally gave myself 2 months to have this done, and we're going into month 3 now, and it's a lot better than when we started. You know, the bike started, you know, it's rideable, but there's so much still to do. And, you know, I've learned a lot working on this bike, and I've networked with people. So, you know, the next bike, yes, I'm already planning the next project. I wish I could go ahead and get it now. It's gonna be a lot easier, but I can tell you that, yeah, I have been stressed out with this, but it's been fun stress. Oh, man, what the? A name that I now give this motorcycle or this series is Project Genesis. You know, it's the beginning of something. And when I decided to get a wrecked bike from an auction, I knew that there was so much that could go wrong, right? Getting it to my house was the first leg of the journey, not including the financing. How was I going to pay for a wrecked motorcycle? And this was a wrecked motorcycle that I had never seen in person. In most cases, it's sight unseen, and I didn't have the ability to go to the auction yard to see it firsthand. So when I got it here, you know, it could have had frame damage. Working on the engine, the first thing I wanted to do was get it started. It could have had engine damage. It could have had drivetrain or transmission problems. And technically the frame is messed up, the subframe. And also we could have done everything right and still not gotten it started because the screen was missing off of it. That shows a lot of the diagnostics information with the bike. So I didn't want that to stop me from doing it. And so far, as you guys have seen, we've gotten the bike started. We've shown that the transmission is good and is technically rideable even in a Frankenstein state. So far it has gone pretty well. In all of this, I can tell you that I've learned a lot and I've shared a lot, and still there are critics in the caves and little corners and crevices of the internet that are still more pessimistic than optimistic despite everything we've done so far. I'm always down for some criticism, and honestly, I mean, no matter what I do, I'm going to be criticized. But there are some people that said that I would run out of money, that the bike would be too expensive to fix, and that I would have trouble running in the parts, which is partially true, which I'm no longer in that situation. I have a very awesome story to tell about that, because again, part of this is logistics. It's not just wrenching on a bike. And we've seen that a big question mark was whether or not the bike would start without the screen, because that screen, it shows so much information from your speed, the engine codes on the bike. And I was honestly shocked that the bike is able to do what it can without that, which leads into, you know, not being hindered by all of the technology that is in the bike. You're still able to do basic things. But I think one of the craziest criticisms that I got so far is that when I detailed, you know, how I paid for the bike, you know, I financed it. I took out a loan to have money to help fix this wrecked bike. And somebody said something along the lines of that this would be more realistic if I had bad credit. And I'm like, why don't you just fix your credit? Like at that point, no matter what I do, I simply can't please everybody. And I'm coming to terms with that. There's some people that don't think that what I'm doing here is, I guess, a build series because I'm going back with mostly stock components, which, I mean, build series is subjective to people. But what I am doing is taking a wrecked bike and basically getting it from a salvage to a rebuilt state. I still have to go through a state inspection to verify that the parts aren't stolen on the bike and that it passes state, I guess, Department of Transportation code to legally have it on the street. So there's things that I'm still having to do and figure out. So what I do and what other people do on YouTube and how they display it and the financial risk that they take, it is harder than it looks. So if you want to show us how it's done, you know, put up your own money like I've done or other people have done, start your YouTube channel and then film it all and show us how it's done. That's what I would probably, I guess, recommend. That's seriously some of the biggest facts that I can say. And reiterating that, again, a lot of this isn't just wrenching and putting parts back on the bike. A lot of this is just building new skills. Before I started this, I had never taken bolts or broken bolts out of a frame. I didn't know what a left-handed drill bit was. I didn't know what a hammer and a dolly was to reshape metal, which I did successfully on the front fender. I tried it on the rear fender and it didn't work because the subframe is bent, which I've tried to fix, which is why it's at the shop right now. I took a bottle jack, tried to spread it and fix it. It just didn't work. And that's me showing you guys the failures that's also involved with learning how to do new things. And the whole logistics aspect of this is figuring out which dealers can get me stuff faster, and also figuring out whether or not Indian can get me something faster than a dealer, which I know now in most cases just order direct from Indian. So it's not just wrenching. And I found parts that were previously back ordered that I was able to get simply by researching. And also that Challenger switch, for instance, I found that by referencing part numbers. I don't show you guys all the research that I'm doing, you know, up late at night trying to figure out which parts work between what bikes and trying to, you know, search the forums and eBay trying to, make deals with people that are, I guess parting out their bikes, or I guess selling parts that they're not using. The truth is I don't know how to fabricate or custom build a motorcycle. Yet. That's the key word. Yet. What I can tell you is how to find parts, how to reference part numbers and figure out what parts work between motorcycles, or actually read the freaking manual when you don't understand how something on the bike works, and then getting your hands dirty and then building that skill so when you do it next time, you'll know how to do it. So right now I can pretty much take Chief apart without the manual because I've done it enough to not really need it. And also, if it's something that I can't do, like fix the tank, I know how to reach out to people smarter than me and ask them for their help. Regardless of what critics say, and I'm sure I represent a lot of you watching that are in high spirits and love what I'm doing here, is that you got to start somewhere, and this is a hell of a way and a great way to do it. Oh man, it freaking works. The Chief, man, other than cosmetic stuff, the bike works. It freaking works. And I gotta figure out those shocks and get the exhaust changed out and stuff, but guys, the bike freaking works, man. Another truth is I could have went out to a dealership and bought a brand new Chief and just did a build that way, assuming I could actually get it here, because people have been waiting months for their orders of Chief. So who am I to get one earlier than anybody else? I would be waiting probably 3 or 4 months, and this series would not even be a thing. And also there's this whole idea of being able to keep an audience while you're doing YouTube. Because let's face it, let's say I did go out there and get that 17, I guess probably $19,000 Chief now, probably a little bit more, including taxes and logistics and the rising cost of materials. So you're probably looking at a $20,000 motorcycle just to get the bike. And then there's this thing that you have to do with YouTube, spend more money to keep an audience interested. So now I have a $20,000 motorcycle that I still have to add parts on top of that, because let's be honest, let's say I did get that bike and I revealed it. The next question is going to be, oh my God, you have a Chief now. What are you going to do to it? So now I'm looking at a $23,000, $24,000, $25,000 Chief compared to the more fun route. Let's get a wrecked bike. Let's do a series that no one else has ever done on YouTube, which is taking a wrecked Indian motorcycle and showing the detailed process of taking it from a salvage to a rebuilt bike. So now, instead of $20,000 as a base, I have a $6,200 base. Yeah, the motorcycle doesn't run, but let me ask you this. Which series is more fun? The guy that bought the brand new bike and he's putting parts on it however he's doing it or she's doing it, or the person that bought the wrecked bike that doesn't run and they're trying to get it back to a rideable state and they spent way less money so they have a bigger buffer to just do whatever? I think you're gonna take the wreck one. So either way it goes, I feel like we're doing pretty well with the wrecked Chief series. And it's more fun to watch somebody struggle with a wrecked bike than a brand new one, assuming you can get one. Once again, there will always be people that don't understand, or rather they understand what you're doing, but they still, I guess, criticize it because they can't do it themselves. They're afraid to do it themselves. But me, I look at that as an opportunity to do it anyway. And I felt like I've done a lot with this series, and it's just pushed me so far out of my comfort zone. And what blew my mind in the very beginning is just getting the bike here. When that bike, I'm telling you guys, when I took something from a picture and it just showed up in my garage, I was just a kid on Christmas, because it wasn't so much the bike itself, but it was just doing something that I had wanted to do for years and finally taking the leap and actually making it happen. And then from the moment we got those bolts out of the frame, not even getting the bike started, it's just getting those bolts out of the frame, because I almost quit. I was about to quit. And then that bolt came out of that frame, and it's just brought, I literally got goosebumps, because it was something that I had never done before. And those bolts in that frame were so important because it proved that I was on the right track and I had the skill set, or at least the willpower, or at least the grit to figure this out, because those bolts in that frame were crucial, because it led me to being able to mount the foot peg assembly and the shifter to put the bike in gear. Yes, I could have used the pliers and did the splines. I didn't want to damage those because I didn't know how much stuff was already damaged. But it was that allowed me to put the bike in gear. And once we found out the bike could go in gear, that's when we were able to actually start the bike, or attempt to start it. And that's when we found out that we didn't need the screen for the bike. And that's when we found out, okay, the battery's messed up. Get another battery, and then my neighbor was helping me. There's so much that happened just from those, not only getting the bike here, but the small win of taking that little bolt out of the frame. Y'all just don't understand how crazy that made me feel. And that's why I say these small wins contribute to a larger thing. I would have loved to watch myself from the opposite end, from a creator, like seeing it from a viewer, seeing somebody create and do this, because it would have just lit a fire in me to do this myself. And many of you have said the exact same thing, that you are possibly going to look to do this yourself. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so much. This is bigger than this bike. It's just showing people what's possible, and that just makes me so freaking excited and so freaking happy. So freaking happy. One of the greatest office administrators to ever live, Michael Scott, said that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You can't miss something if you never take the shot. And that's what I've done here. And I feel like we've done well so far. And as Forrest Gump would say, from Greenbow, Alabama, because I'm in Alabama, that's all I have to say about that. But as I said before, at the end of this series, as positive and negative and I guess successful and as some failures have happened so far, I'm hoping to have the bike from the shop in a few days, and we'll be able to keep going forward. I will be giving this bike away at the end, with details coming soon, so don't worry, you're not going to miss when I go live with it. I'm going to let you guys know. I'm going to give this bike away, and I'm hoping that whoever gets it is going to appreciate it as much as I have, simply putting this thing back together and riding it for a little bit. But again, I will announce that when the time comes, so don't worry, you're not going to miss out on it. But if you haven't seen anything with this series so far, and catch up on, I guess, from the very beginning, and also actually seeing me ride it for the very first time, you can click this little playlist right here on the screen and start from the very beginning up until this point. It is a very fun series, and I'm very thankful and glad that I'm in a position to do this. So as always, thanks for listening to my story. Thank you for listening to my story. And as always, if you're subscribed, I hope you are. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.